Blizzard has just dropped a massive update going over the future of Classic WoW over the next year, as well as 2 small balance patch updates for Season of Discovery, looking to bring up some of the weaker performing specs. I'll be going over my predictions for the future, what there is to look forward to, as well as what there is to be worried about. So let's talk about it. So jumping straight into the main subject of the video, we have this update Blizzard has just released going over the road ahead for all the different versions of Classic, showing the patch cycle and the order of release of all the different versions of the game. Starting with the Wrath of the Lich King Classic Ruby Sanctum raid, which I believe is due to drop in January 11th, all the way until the end of Season of Discovery. We do not know the exact dates in which most of the stuff will be dropping, however we can hopefully safely assume that this will be the strict order that they will release in. So I'll quickly go over each patch, going over what I think will be arriving and the time in between each patch that I estimate there will be. Starting off with the level 40 patch for Season of Discovery, I believe that this will probably drop around the 20th to the end of January. It could be later, it could be less. I think that's a pretty good time frame. I think longer than 2 months for a patch of Season of Discovery, especially at these early levels, it's going to be a bit rough. I know a lot of people are already reaching that level 25 zone. Maybe they're not too interested in leveling ults and they're struggling to find things to do already. I know that the BFD raid is a lot of fun, but it's a very fast raid. So if you don't have an ult, you're going to be in and out of there very quickly every 3 days. The PvP event I find quite enjoyable, but a lot of people don't enjoy PvP, so I definitely think level 25 is fun, and for me, I'm still enjoying it, but I think a lot of people are looking for a faster cadence on the patches. I think January 20th is the safest that they can do, and with that patch will come level 40, new runes and rune slots which have been confirmed, a new PvP event which I'm not sure has been strictly confirmed, but a lot of people are estimating that the new PvP event will be in Stranglethorn. Could be in Arathi Basin as well, we're not too sure. I believe that those are the 2 main contenders. And then the Gnomergon raid, which is exciting because personally I don't do Gnomergon very often when it's a dungeon. I'm excited to see how they reimagine the raid, as well as if it will be a 10 or a 20 man raid or even more. I definitely think that larger raid sizes will be more fun, especially considering in our guild we have a ton of different 10 mans and we're all split up, we're not really together. So I think larger raid sizes will be very, very much appreciated. Maybe not 40 mans just yet, I think that's a bit stressful to organize, but definitely a 20, 25 man, that'll be a lot of fun. Going on from there, they're going to release the Cataclysm Classic Beta, as well as the Self-Found mode in Hardcore. So personally, I'm not a big fan of Cataclysm, but I will be signing up for the beta. I will probably be leveling on launch as well. I've heard that the leveling is a lot of fun, the raids are a lot of fun, so I'll be giving it a try, especially since I estimate that there will be a pretty big gap in between level 50 and level 60 of SODs, so keep that in mind. And when it comes to Hardcore, I personally suck a lot at Hardcore. However, I will be giving it another try with the Self-Found mode. I've died 3 times at level 18 on Hardcore. I decided to take a break, pretty much quit, but maybe I'll stream myself dying at level 18 again. We'll see what happens. I do know that a lot of people have been asking for the Self-Found mode because there's a lot of boosting and RMT and stuff in Classic Hardcore, so I definitely think that it's a good addition. I know Hardcore has brought a lot of people to Classic, so I hope it's a success and it brings a bit more life to Hardcore because I know it's a bit underwhelming right now. Then up next we have the level 50 patch, and I think that this won't be long after level 40, so it could be there's a short cadence between level 40 and level 50. We'll have to see, I'm not too sure, but the middle of spring is where it seems to be. Obviously it's not really easy to determine, but with that brings the level 50 raid and level 50 runes, and it does not mention a PvP update here, so I hope that there will be a new PvP zone at level 50. It is not mentioned here. I hope they just forgot to add it. But without a PvP event, I think you're losing a lot of Classic. You might lose a lot of the end game as well. So, and especially considering that there will be such a long gap in between level 50 and 60. So I think level 50 is going to have to be a pretty juicy update with content-wise. Maybe even 2 raids. And I'll be going over what I think will be good raids for level 50. For level 50 raid, I think Sunken Temple would be a great addition. I think they don't want to replace iconic dungeons like BRD because then you lose the dungeon and you gain the raid. I'd rather they take a underperforming dungeon like Sunken Temple, something that people haven't done very much, people that don't really understand the lore or the story behind that dungeon, and then like update it, revamp it, add some cool new bosses, new mechanics, new loot. So yeah, I think Sunken Temple is a great one, as well as Uldaman could be cool, although I think it's a bit cramped for a raid. So I think Sunken Temple is my main contender for the level 50 raid as my prediction. Following that, we have the pre-patch and the launch for Cataclysm, which will be taking place between the level 50 and 60 patch in SOD. So this could be a pretty long gap in SOD content. Maybe Blizzard expects people to move over to Cataclysm just to try it out for a month or two, then go back to SOD. So if you're not going to be trying Kata, I expect there to be quite a large gap of content here. That's just a speculation, it's not a confirmation, so just keep in mind of that. And then up next we have the level 60 patch, which is the culmination of all the different power-ups and new runes that we've received. I think it's going to be a very big focal point for a lot of people to determine whether or not SOD has been a success, because the balancing might be a bit crazy. I think there's a big worry for me personally that the content at level 60 is going to be made irrelevant with all the gear that we're going to be getting, especially considering how strong level 25 gear is. Level 50 gear could be even stronger, so I hope at least that either they raise the difficulty of the dungeons, make the loot a bit more appealing, or maybe they balance level 50 in a way that level 60 is still a lot of content with all the new dungeons you can do. There's Molten Core and any potential new dungeons. Endgame activities they have here could be anything. Could be PvP, could be new raids, could be new dungeons, which would be amazing. But yeah, level 60 is going to be super important for SOD. And then we will be seeing 2 patches of Cataclysm in a row between the next season of Discovery patches. So Rise of the Zandalari, as far as I know, just makes the Zulaman and Zul'Gurub into 2 new 5-man dungeons, as well as a whole bunch of new content in Stranglethorn Vale and some quest chains and stuff, so that could be cool. And then the Firelands raid, which is obviously one of the most iconic raids in terms of difficulty at the time and just overall quality. So I think Firelands is definitely going to be a very attractive patch to at least try raiding in Cataclysm. If you're interested in raiding, you can leave a comment down below telling me exactly what you're looking forward to in Cataclysm. Maybe that'll hype me up a bit more as well. Otherwise, if you're going to be trying hardcore or SOD as well, you can also let me know. And then there's finally the most intriguing patch of the whole timeline here, and that is the endgame content updates. And this could be either after Naxxramas, assuming Naxxramas is on like a steady release cycle. It could be before Naxxramas, it could be new dungeons, new PvP events, new raids, new anything. This is the biggest what if. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they come up with. I think they should go wild with what they want to implement. But I think what has been almost semi-confirmed is either a Karazhan Crypts, a Scarlet Crusade raid. What else could they even be? Like even maybe Dragon Isles, Emerald Dream, Hyjal. All of that could be coming at the end of the game. I think it's super exciting. I think that's what people have been asking for maybe the most. So I'm very excited to see what comes at the end of the timeline. And then quickly moving on to the second point of the video, which is the 2 balance patches that Blizzard has released on SOD. These are quickly going over some of the weaker performing specs, as well as maybe PvP balancing as well. So starting off with the Mage, Living Flame now benefits from Arcane Blast, which is very nice for arcane healers, or just arcane mages in general, because you'd stack up that damage buff on Arcane Blast, and now you can spend it on Living Flame, which is a huge amount of damage considering the mobs can stay in the AoE that it leaves on the ground. So that's nice for mages. For paladins, the Avenger's Shield slow no longer can now be dispelled. So this is a PvP nerf, which I don't know if is needed, because I think paladins had a very unique utility in being able to stop flag carriers, especially druids, from being able to shift in and out of the slow. Now it is able to be shifted out of, as well as freedom, then dispelled, so it is a nerf. I think it was a nice bit of utility that paladins had now with a macro. They could quickly Avenger Shield the flag carrier to slow them down, but now that's been changed, so that's a bit of PvP balancing. The mana granted from Seal of the Martyr has been doubled from 10% to 20%. I think that this is a pretty underwhelming rune. I know that tanks have been taking it. Reds obviously can't give up that Divine Storm damage, so yeah, Seal of the Martyr I think may be used more for tanks now. I think it'll scale a bit further into the next phases as well. So we'll see if that's a very nice amount of mana that it restores or not. But either way, I think it's a pretty solid amount of damage that it does, so it's just a little bit of a buff to the rune. Then we have the Rogue Blade Dance has been updated to grant 10% at all ranks, and rather the duration is increased with more combo points. So I think this is just to let rogues start the fight with a bit more mitigation. I think rogues are actually doing surprisingly well in single target. They're able to pump out a ton of damage. So if you have a rogue tank, they're almost like a Fury prot tank from back in the day. They're just doing a lot of damage. They can tank if needed. I think they're great off tanks, so you can get some really fast kills in. And then we have the Shaman changes going over the mana granted by Shamanistic Rage. It's been increased from 10% to 20%. I think this is a really nice utility change. I still think they're going to be a bit weak in PvE, but we'll see how it progresses into the next phase if they need more and more buffs, because they got some pretty huge buffs in the last patch as well. And then arguably the most impactful change across the board for all casters is that 2 new items have been added to the crafting tailoring vendors in Orgrimmar and Darnassus. These allow you to create 2 new items, the Invoker's Cord and Invoker's Mantle. These are 7 spell power and 5 intellect pieces on the belt and the shoulders, and these are best in slot for all cloth casters, and for Balance Druid, which is what I'm making videos about usually. The belt has become the new pre-bis, and the shoulders have become the new actual bis for the entire phase. So definitely pick up the shoulders. The belt is also really good if you don't have a good spell power belt. So yeah, this is a very nice change for casters. It'll help bring up the lower end of the damage classes, which is mainly casters. And then finally we have the last minute changes to Feral Druid, tanks, and Shadow Priests. I think these are 2 underrepresented DPS and tank classes. However, I don't think that this update is accurately targeting the pain points of each of these specs. I think the problem with Druid right now is their single target is okay, but their AoE threat is pretty abysmal with Swipe doing very little. You have to tab target Maul and Lacerate and stuff. It's kind of a nightmare. I also don't think that they've anything added that is like unique or majorly new or fresh. So I think it's one of the most underrepresented tanks for that reason as well. But this is definitely going to help their single target threat even more. Maybe it'll increase their damage as well. So if you are a Druid tank player, then you'll enjoy these changes. And then the Shadow Priest has had a massive buff to Shadow at Death, increasing its base damage by 103%, as well as increasing its spell power scaling by 50%. And while this may seem amazing, I definitely think it's going to be a bit scary for Shadow Priest to be pressing this button, especially considering it's already taking up the same rune slot as Penance, which is already one of their highest damage abilities. Shadow at Death in PvP might be a lot of fun if you can properly execute people with it, but missing that execute in PvE and PvP is going to be backlashing a ton of damage. And I think if they don't reduce the amount of backlash damage that this does, I still don't think it'll be used. And like next patch when they get Shadow Form and they'll start doing even more damage, I think Shadow at Death might be griefing your world buffs. It might be ending up in killing you more so than it'll actually be helping you out. So Shadow at Death is pretty scary, but interesting change, and we'll see how Shadow Priests play around with it in the next coming weeks. So that's all I really have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this little informative news video. If you don't like this type of content and you'd prefer to see more gameplay or like speculation content, then just leave that down below. I definitely want to figure out exactly what types of videos I want to be making going forward. Otherwise, if you did like it, just drop a like, drop a comment, drop a sub. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.